see. Hey fam. And I will keep calling us fam because we are all connected. All connected, all as one human race. And that's all we are. One human race with different physical features and characteristics and personalities. One human race. Nothing separates us. We are all equal, all wonderful. And do we have equity? Not necessarily, but we can. And that's what I'm talking about here today. So maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I said that I had come to the place where I too had stopped talking to white people about race. And as I have looked at that and just really I have actually had to mourn the death of the expectation that things are going to change significantly in my lifetime, because without or approaching this from a different perspective. And this is where I landed. I asked myself the same question that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. asked himself close to the end of his prematurely ended life, having worked so hard on the civil rights movement in the US and having, gone to different places in the world, looked at Gandhi and other stalwarts around the world who were working for peace. It didn't matter what color they were, it didn't matter what religion they were, just human beings. He studied human beings who were working for change and to create peace. And he realized at one point, his question was, have we actually come very far? And where do we go from here? To community or chaos? And my question to us is, if we want to get to community instead of chaos, how are we going to do that? There's absolutely no way that community can be legislated. Like, true community cannot be legislated. It cannot be brought to us through the force of law. Like, that is simply people that produces, when we try to legislate community, when we try to legislate change, we simply create a situation where people are forced to hide their true questions and forced not to really go through deep and abiding change because they're afraid to show themselves. We are afraid to show ourselves. We become led by fear, the fear of some sort of punishment, you do have a balloon baby, of some kind of punishment and of some kind of consequence if we fail in making community. The only thing that can create change, the only thing that can bring us to community and not chaos, the only thing that can bring us to the place where we start being willing to look at our own hearts individually and just give ourselves grace and compassion for the difficulties that life the difficulties that life has brought to us, the way life has messed up our hearts and our minds in relation to how we connect with each other, is if we feel safe to do the individual examination openly with the understanding that what we are dealing with is not an individual desire for division. It's science. It's simply the science of behavior for generations and generations and generations. No matter, it's not about blacks and whites. It's not about indigenous and whites. It's not about different tribes and different countries and different citizens of different countries within the European community, or within the African continent, or it's not all within different African countries, or within your family. Like, in all the ways that we are divided, in all the ways that we have been oppressed, in all the ways that we find ourselves thinking that we are dominant to and superior to some other person because of whatever category we use to assess ourselves. Thus, it's science. It's what happens in our brains. It's what's been happening in our brains when we have been fed that idea over and over and over again, fed the idea that we are either superior or that we are subordinate, that we are superior or inferior, dominant or subordinate. Those things are ingrained in our systems, like ingrained. Epigenetics says that the study of epigenetics, which is science, says that your family's experiences change the way our family's experiences change the way our genes are expressed. Different things are expressed in our genes, and we know that trauma is passed down, that preferences are passed down, that so many things are passed down genetically. But the beautiful thing is that neuroplasticity is the most amazing gift. We can individually and collectively choose to work together to shift those patterns in our brains, shift the impact of life on our DNA, and we can legitimately change that cycle moving forward. That is the way we can create change. That is the way we can move from community to chaos. It's science. It's science. All we have to do is find compassion for ourselves. If you go to the doctor and you're not feeling well, you're experiencing pain and discomfort, and the doctor does tests and you do PET scans and CT scans and all the investigations, and the doctor comes to you and says, you have cancer. Like, I don't think that our first response is not generally to beat up on ourselves. It's like, oh, am I going to die? Like, what can we do? Like, we're then faced with the I'm losing my words here. We're faced at that point with the idea that life is fragile, and what can we do? Gently and quickly and firmly to create change, to create healing. That's the same thing that we get to do here, fam. That's the same thing that we get to do here. So let's stop blaming each other. Let's stop looking with contempt or anger or like resentment or any of that at each other, and start focusing on healing, on shifting those pathways in our brains, and see how we can create community instead of chaos. No amount of legislation is going to do this. It's got to be personal, introspective work where we choose to get up, pick up our beds, as Jesus said to the person who had been crippled, the man who had been crippled for so many years. He's like, pick up your bed and walk. And he didn't pick up his bed and walk in his own strength. I have a personal belief in God, not religious, not attached to any denomination specifically. I gather with a specific group on a regular basis because I believe in community and the strength and the brilliance that comes out of gathering together. But my thought is simply, I am connected to our Creator, and the power with which that man picked up his bed and walked, we have that same power available to us. We have that power, the power of love, the power of healing. Pick up our bed today. Pick up your bed. And the thing that's like, breathes such hope into me is that even if we don't pick up our bed today, we can pick up our bed tomorrow. If we don't pick it up tomorrow, you can pick it up the next day. If not the next day, the next. There is hope that they, who began a good work in us, will keep working with us to completion until we are changed as we desire to be, until we are brought together in community and we can set chaos aside, until we each love ourselves so deeply, until we each see how free and amazing we are, until we each own our power and stop trying to use force of any kind, whether it's legislation or shaming or canceling. We stop trying to use force of any kind to end oppression and create community, because force, shaming, canceling creates chaos and fear. It will never create community. I love us. I love us. I love me. And I believe in us. I love each of you. I love myself. I love myself deeply, and I'm going to love myself so much more deeply every day. And the compassion with which I have begun to look at myself, I am extending that compassion to all of us and inviting us into that place of compassion. Where do we go from here? Community or chaos? I dearly believe that we can head towards community. I love you.